Yes, okay, sorry. I don't know what happened. Okay, so maybe I'll just go back a little bit. Um, okay, technical issues, sorry everyone. I'm really happy to be here today. So I'll be presenting the work that I did as part of the critical climate computing uh, uh, as part of UAL, which is called Compost Computer. And before I delve into the project itself, I'd like just to share a little bit about my practice and research interests, a little bit of my background. So I have a background in graphic design, illustration, and then later I've started experimenting with web development and creative computation. Um, I'm working as a lecturer for the MA Interaction Design at the London College of Communication, and I'm currently also doing a PhD, a practice-based PhD in critical computation at the Creative Computing Institute in London, also as part of UAL. So from the beginning, like I started like getting really interested in the aesthetics of decay and thinking about ideas around decomputing, degrowth, and like thinking about how do we think otherwise about computation and what else can we do with it instead of just accepting it as it is. So I'm really interested in media archaeologies and the materiality of media. This is like my current website that I hand coded, and like I created a sort of self-made constraint of only using ASCII art or like semi-graphics to recreate all my visual work, which is a big challenge as a visual artist, primarily to like use really low graphics in a sense, and like this idea of like low tech in a sense to be this sort of facade for yourself online. But the upside of it is that the website can be like just like a couple of hundreds of kilobytes. So that's like was a big plus for me. And some of my past projects were already like involved in the sort of decayed and unseen parts of the internet, such as Merciless Entropy in 2020, which was then further developed as the sort of scraper that was looking at 404 pages. So I was trying to re-inject and re-enchant those pages, those empty pages, with imagery and poetry instead of kind of shunning those empty parts of the web. I was inviting people back in. So it's more about that. So yeah, basically I'm like really interested in all of those ideas involved in thinking computation in different ways and like really decoupling it from techno-capitalism, obsolescence, and rapid development. Which then comes my partnership with the Critical Climate Computing, which is this new initiative co-created by Wesley Goldley and Eva Verhoeven, in which we are trying to find new ways to think about humans, computation, and the climate. And I was also involved in designing and thinking about the visual identity of their main website. There's a lot of low-tech, low-carbon design logics to think about it. More about the members. And this project itself then came as part of this group, which is Compost Computer, Modern Human Design through Critical Climate Computing. And it was part of UK Arts and Humanities Research Council funded. a project that was looking at modern human design and ways in which we could collaborate with modern humans. And the project aim was to produce then this proof of concept compost-powered web server, work in collaboration with Manchester-based urban growing initiatives such as Soda City and Mud, and the UK arts and culture organization FutureEverything. So through these collaborations, we developed this MFC-powered web server fueled by Mud's compost and used it to host this new low-carbon website that we designed for FutureEverything. And a little bit more about FutureEverything. And like part of this was that they announced nature as part of their board, making the first cultural institution in the UK to do so. And this is Mud, where in Plattsfield in Manchester, which housed the project. So you're going to see more pictures of it later. But it's like such a beautiful space. And this is the core team of the project. So we had Wesley Goldley as the project lead, Eva Verhoeven, project co-lead, and my close collaborator, which is an artist and researcher, Shinji Toya. And we worked really close together to develop both the software and the hardware side of the project. So more about the context of why we were interested in this and like kind of going through all this challenge to make this compost-powered microcomputer, which is the sort of entire technological hubris on an exhausted Earth, and thinking about the vast amounts of power and costs, both of human lives, non-human lives, and other earthly resources that computation makes use of, and we don't see any signs of stopping. So as artists and researchers, we saw this need to push back against it and like to use of techno-capitalism, and also thinking about not contributing to this sort of new strata of technofossils created by e-waste. And thinking about the web itself, the average size of a web page has more than doubled over the past 10 years. So it pushes us not to think only about the hardware side of things, but thinking about the whole rationale of the project and even the aesthetics and design logics behind it. And yeah, all of the sort of like really pessimistic news around AI rush and like this whole AI hype that really changed everything and like really fueled this sort of new arms race around creating more data centers and wasting more and more resources. Really this kind of ethos of going fast and breaking things all over again, and with really dire consequences to local communities and water resources. And more of this sort of doom scrolling on how they even recognize they are losing a lot of money, but it's just like this sort of bet that cannot be stopped. And given the direction where AI is headed, the consequences are even more dire. And by 2028, it's predicted that more than half of all the electricity is going to data centers used for AI. So there is this really big push for us as a team to think beyond big tech and think more about hyper local servers and technologies, and really thinking about kind of bringing servers and this idea of computation back to community gardens, for example, which is not a place that we usually associate with servers and kind of DIY computing practices. And other projects that inspired us were projects around DIY servers that were hyper local and quite political as well. So we were inspired by feminist infra with projects such as the Trans Feminist servers and the Traversal Network of Feminist Server, and also ServPub with Ingrid and other friends, as well as script infrastructure projects such as Access Server by Melt and CloseCloud.net by George Sims. And what really inspired me in all of those server projects is that they are all about this refusal of being compliant and functional 24/7. So it's like the logics of DIY and like local servers are completely different from the logics of big tech. So those are the expectations that we have about functionality also need to be different and to be more caring. And around that as well, we had a lot of like reflections on feral infra, and Shinji Toya coined this idea of feral infrastructure when relating to bacteria in response to anthropologists and Assing's concept of contaminations, collaboration, and feral effects. Because something that we really saw is that bacteria life cycles and metabolism would always be unpredictable for us because we are also not scientists and we didn't have this entire lab infrastructure. So a lot of it was very based on trial and error and like just learning how to deal with it, like to really getting to understand and to know the like the very kind of alive material that we were dealing with, which was quite humbling for us as artists and designers, and integrating other than human life, because it really escaped our kind of desire to command and control them. And other ideas that inspires us for this project is the idea of pluriversal computation that I look at for my PhD, drawing for Arturo Escobar, pluriversal politics, the real and the possible, and as a form of refusal and proposal to reimagine programming to persist through resource depletion and civilizational collapse by decoupling computation from digitality, exploitation, and environmental destruction. And also this idea that old and slow are not necessarily useless. And another part of this project is this image editing and compression tool that I've developed to compress images that would be part of the website. So the images that could not be omitted, I created this tool to be content aware. So it would get the pixel information and just the threshold of the images, and in a really simple way, just pixelate more the parts of the image that didn't contain a lot of information. So you can really see the differences here and like how it's treated the sky, for example, that has less information while preserving other parts of the image. And going through the design and build of the Compost computer itself, we were majorly inspired by this research project that was a partnership between a UK-based university. So it was a development of a functional stack of soil microbial fuel cells to power a water treatment reactor. And the results were really good. And we really used this and like tried to reverse engineer a lot of their processes. So we could recreate some part of it using mud's compost. And here are like some initial experiments and some readings using the multimeter to start like looking at the different samples that we've got from compost in different stages. So we were like experimenting with really fresh compost and also like compost that was a bit more mature in that sense, and like to really start understanding what would be the best one for the project. And also for we went through a lot of experimentation and production phases and experimenting with different materials and production of different cells. And so we explored different sort of cathodes and anodes to add to the soil and the compost, from graphite rods to other sort of materials. And we also experimented with earth batteries and microbial fuel cells to really understand what would be the downsides and upsides of using each of them. And the main thing is that MFCs, they generate more electricity because of the microbes' activities, such as the digestion of organic matter. But it could also be it fluctuates more. So even though it yields more electricity, they're a bit more complex and harder to manufacture, especially because the microbial activity causes a lot of corrosion of materials. So everything that we used that was based on like with metal, we kind of saw that the corrosion happened really fast, and then it degraded the capacity of the battery to generate electricity. So that was like a huge kind of design block that we found, and we had to find ways of sealing those materials and to not be so prone to the sort of decay of the materials. So here are like more experiments with graphites and zinc plates. And these are other ones which were the best ones with good output and more stable with corrosion resistance. So the majority of cells were made with carbon felt in the end. And then after like finding out that the carbon felt were like the most useful for this context, we started like building a lot of cells because we really needed to scale up the system. So we would achieve around 3.3 volts and 200 milliamperes to power up the microcontroller. So here you can see like somewhat of like a healthy cell, and the need for connecting them in series parallel so we could have both the voltage and the amperage amped up to power the small microcontroller. And here are like some images of the final installation. So you can see we have a lot of cells. We built more than 80 of those, but in the end we used around 60 of them that were considered like healthy cells that were generating more electricity and were performing well in like the series parallel, because that's another problem of the system, that if one cell is not performing, then it kind of lowers the entire connection of the system. And the final hardware setup was based on using a Seed Studio Shell NRF microcontroller with low energy Bluetooth connectivity, solar harvesting into lithium ion capacitor designed by Jasper Sicken, and yeah, and like those specific lithium ion capacitors that were much better at storing the energy than just normal lithium batteries, and also uh, a bit more ecologically friendly in that sense. And here are the pictures of the final installation and some, I know it's a bit abstract, but this is the final setup with the index files that is part of the microcontroller being transmitted and being served as the system. So we see here like it's being slowly transmitted and sent to the other computer to start serving the website. Thank you. Oh, I can't join the call for some reason. I'm really sorry, I can't join the call. The link is not working. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.